listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. First, if you haven't subscribed to us yet, make sure you do that. We're on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, on Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can get your podcasts from. And if you could, leave us some feedback or a review and let us know how we're doing. This is episode 23, where we talk about a mini documentary on guns that's been recently released by Newsy.com. It's called Young Guns. From there, we talk about young people in the firearm industry, ownership, how young gun owners actually carry concealed a lot more than their older counterparts, and what we can do to help get more young folks into the sport of shooting. As always, thanks for listening to Range Minded, and we hope you enjoy episode 23, the Young Guns documentary. Hello, and welcome to Range Minded, episode number 23 from Independence Indoor Shooting. Steve Zimmerman, Ricky Kasner, and myself, Mark Long.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi. Have we started yet?
Yes, we started.
It's amazing. If you guys could hear the monologue of unrecorded segments.
Before the air.
You might never shop at the store again.
This one would have been a heated one.
Ricky's a little feisty today. It's great. I love it.
I may have inadvertently got Ricky's heart rate increased.
Yeah, see? Ricky showered and did his hair and everything.
Yeah, he even said that. I showered, I got ready, and now let's do this.
I'm feisty, so this will be actually a really good topic for that, because we're talking about youth and firearms, young people, and getting involved with firearms, how we can help to get more people involved in firearms, young people, and
the next generation.
Very interesting not documentary, it's a special report from a news organization that I saw about young people and firearms. Aptly titled Young Guns.
Which was a great movie.
Yeah, it was. It's also a great documentary.
Oh, I have to watch the documentary.
Yeah, it's going to be...
Is it about Billy the Kid?
No, it's about this guy named Zach who he went to... No, I don't... Zach Toombs is his name.
Sorry.
Steve's a little saucy too today. Yeah, just drink your Monster and...
It's a rock star.
Oh, drink your rock star.
Are we advertising for them?
Now we are. That's some buzz marketing.
Yeah, it's product placement like they do in the movies. Like on
they always have to
Wayne's World.
Label
New
forward.
print, little, yellow, different.
Just drink your refreshing, energizing Rockstar energy drink and enjoy yourself.
So now they owe us millions.
Yeah,
for
right.
Just putting that on the air.
Or we owe them millions. One of the two.
Contact Rick at iishooting.com about some sponsorship opportunities. No, but this special report was from a news organization called Newsy.com, which I had never heard of before.
Yeah, it was a Disney movie.
Newsy? You were on one.
This is going to be a great episode. I can feel it.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess they market themselves as a news outlet for millennials.
Interesting.
Which I think is kind of interesting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but...
so no big words or...
Well, it's intellectual. Wow. As a millennial, I kind of appreciated it, but I didn't dive too much into it. But they sent this guy, one of their correspondents named Zach Toombs, down to the NRA show.
Nice.
Didn't run into Ricky. Didn't see him in the video.
Oh, it was this last year.
Yeah, it was this past one. So this new special report came out only a couple weeks ago.
I'm offended that they didn't even interview me for that.
I would love to see Ricky on camera.
That would be awkward. When I first started this podcast, I couldn't even figure out how to talk.
Well, you've come a long way now, and now you're feisty. You've come a long way.
I kind of like being in the media, I'm not going to lie.
Do you?
Yeah. Having a camera pointed at my face.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
A little awkward.
But what he did was Newsy.com did a bunch of studies. Well, they took a lot of polls, and they cited all their sources and everything.
Which is good.
And they talked about how young people kind of look at guns a little bit different way than older generations. Traditionally, a lot of people owned guns for hunting or recreation. Now, they cited the Pew Research Center and said that 67% of people own a gun for protection, whereas only 38% own a gun for hunting. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's mixed use and everything like that, but
it depends on like where they surveyed too. If it was metropolitan areas or something.
Sure.
I can see that though. I mean, back in the day, you think of like even how my dad was raised, and I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but guns were tools. That's how my dad was. Like, we went hunting, sure, but it's like the type of hunting where it's like you take your rifle out, blow the dust off. Wipe the lenses of the scope and go sight it in, make sure it's still sighted in, and then you shoot your deer or whatever, and then you
back in the cabinet,
come back. I mean, you might shoot one or two times, but I'm seeing more of like the protection is becoming a big deal. and sporting. So
Yeah, the sport of
competitions.
shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that's really making a research, the sporting side of it. It seems like it is, to me.
I think it's happening in tandem with self-defense, because with defense you have to train and practice, and what better way to train and practice than with
have fun.
competitions?
And I think I've said it before, my skills dramatically increased when I was shooting in USPSA.
Right.
So I need to get back into it, because moving and shooting and acquiring targets fast and accuracy.
And shooting from behind, concealment, and all that. But the Newsy poll was conducted in mid-July, a sample of 2,010 adults over 18 from the U.S., which included 589 gun owners and 1,421 non-gun owners. Okay. So what they found was that... where is it? There were, I actually wrote these statistics down. So younger people are buying just as many guns as older folks. I believe it was about 28 to 30% of people own firearms in the home. But the interesting part was that of those gun owners, they were young gun owners were twice as likely to conceal carry at least once a month.
Twice as likely.
So, or rather, twice as many of them would conceal carry rather than their older counterparts.
Legally, right?
Correct. So it was about 49% of young gun owners conceal carry at least once a month, as opposed to 24% or 25, roughly 25% of, Gen X and older.
Which is a cool trend to see. I mean, what's going to preserve our Second Amendment rights more than the younger generation getting into firearms?
Right.
And getting them involved, not turning them into activists, but almost teaching them correct principles about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but getting them involved in some way that entertains them and doesn't turn them into extreme craziness. But
extremists, radicalized.
Well, and I do like that they're doing that, because they're getting into it too, because I mean, you have this Hollywood version of firearms, which is not realistic at all.
It's not?
No. Sorry. I bursted your dreams.
If you remember, we had a Myths and Misconceptions episode a few episodes back, and we busted some of those Hollywood myths. Like you won't get blown back 6 feet if you get shot.
Yeah.
With a 9mm?
With a 9mm, yeah. Or even a 44 mag.
So these young guys are coming into this industry and they're seeing... Well, and it was actually interesting. There was a guy in the other day. I can't remember how he was related to this younger guy, but he was telling me a story about, let's say it's his grandson.
Yeah.
He was telling me a story about his grandson and how his grandson will be playing these video games. And who was it? Man, I can't remember. But anyway,
he was a customer.
Yeah, a customer. But he was like, hey, I go to a place, they have the P90, they have the SCAR, and these are things that you're playing on your video games. Do you want to go shoot it in real life? And the kid's like, no, not interested.
Really?
But he'll be soaking day in and day out on this video game with these guns.
That's interesting.
But not really want to go and shoot the real thing. Yeah. And it's like, to me... you kind of have to understand what it is in real life, because it's not this, I'm going to run and do some quick scoping and, or I don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
That is a thing.
But yeah, it's like...
Well, you develop a respect for the power behind a firearm and the appreciation for what it does and what the tool is. I think it's an interesting anecdote.
Yeah.
Going back to the documentary with that, the people I think who do own guns are looking more towards self-defense. And it's interesting that you brought up video games, because a lot of these folks that they interviewed, this guy Zach went around and interviewed maybe a dozen different attendees at the NRA show, and it was millennials of actually all different kind of colors, genders, and creeds, and everything like that. And they were all about self-defense, all about carrying, all about self-defense, and that a lot of these guys learned about firearms and still learn about firearms from YouTube. And that the whole reason that they did this special report was this guy, Zach, actually was finding that there were more firearms videos and content being shown on his newsfeed. on Facebook and in YouTube and all that, and he kind of fell down the rabbit hole of the firearms world on social media, and that's what caused him to start to investigate all this. So it was really interesting to see that where my generation, I guess, gets their gun content and where they learn about firearms and all that. So,
because you have a big gap. You have the generation. I mean, you had, like I said, the older generation, it was always the tools, but then you had a generation gap where people started dropping off from firearms ownership. And this is just in my mind, I think this way. But now where are the kids going to learn it from? Because they can't go to mom and dad. Like generations and generations before them were able to. They could go to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa for that education, but now they can't. So where are they going to go? They're going to go to YouTube. They're going to turn over to the internet for this stuff. Some of it good, some of it bad,
Right, and that's honestly where I got a lot of firearms instruction from the beginning. And I never took it necessarily as dogma, but really just to learn to be more familiar with the concept of firearms and how to shoot better, what to look for. You get a lot of opinions. Opinions are like a-holes. Everybody's got one, you know what I mean?
And they all stink.
But just from anecdotally for me, that's where I
heard that before, Ricky?
I've heard that.
Okay.
He's just not going to say it.
Yeah.
But that's where I got my start, was on Reddit and was on YouTube. It's I think my generation's where we feel not safer, but we're comfortable with the internet. We're comfortable learning from the internet. I mean,
and I think that's important for us as the older gun community, if we really want to teach in as many aspects as possible, to use those resources. So like this, for example, our podcast, I mean, that's a resource for people to, not only for just entertainment, but hopefully some source of knowledge and education, where same with YouTube or even just Google somehow, because everything's on demand now, right?
Yeah.
And that's how kids are used to getting information. When I was a kid, I used to have to open the encyclopedia and dig through it.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the last episode about, you mentioned about how we live in an on-demand society and that there's instant access to information pretty much everywhere. I mean,
which is great and also awful at the same time.
Yeah, it just depends. The internet is a tool.
Because
what
all
do you
the
use
trash,
it for?
all the trash can go right out there as well.
Yeah.
And we get that quite often. At least I experience it on the floor. You can tell when somebody walks in, and nothing against them, but you can tell when somebody walks in and all they've been doing is playing video games and watching YouTube videos, and they come in and act like they know everything, and they're just spouting off names. There's a lot of names of stuff, and I'm like, you can tell right away they have no working knowledge of these things, but they want to act like it.
Well, the couch commando, I like calling them couch commandos.
Keyboard commandos is another one.
And I think that's a part of wanting to be included, or tribalism, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
Well, you don't want to look dumb, I think.
No, yeah, and nobody wants to feel that way either. And I think we do a good job of that as the store, not making those people feel dumb.
Sure.
Sometimes I would like to just tell them to grow up and not be stupid.
Well, and I think it only takes a little while for them to come in here and say, "Wow, nobody else is spouting off a bunch of stuff.
No,
I don't have to do that to be cool."
And I think
in some gun stores, yeah, you kind of have to, because that's just how it is. But
and I think
not here.
And I don't know if it's a mentality thing or what, but I think most of the experienced individuals don't go around talking about how much they know.
No, they don't.
Because they don't need to. They're comfortable with their knowledge base, and they're not going to, oh man, I saw this cool shotgun. Do you have this shotgun? I saw this cool shotgun.
And everybody totally needs it all the time.
If anything, in me speaking for myself, I know me, like I don't spout stuff off because there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Sure.
And the worst thing is to sound like an idiot. It's like,
well, people can see through the BS too.
yeah.
If you're trying to lie your way through, just like you said, you can see those people and they don't know anything. Well, other people do too. Like if you try to play that same card, somebody's going to see through it.
Well, I think my generation of millennials is actually really especially in tune with being able to see through BS or not, because we've been advertised to and BS, people have BS our whole entire lives. Not to say that other generations haven't, but there's just so much advertising and and misinformation and crap online and all this kind of stuff, you know.
I watch the old advertisements, and I know we're getting way off in left field, but people like that, right?
Yeah.
But I watch these old advertisements. Like my mom used to bring these old movies. What's that? Was it Red and Skelton or
Red Skelton?
Red Skelton.
Red Skelton.
Skelton. Yeah, that's right. She would bring these old videos back. And they would have the commercials still on them, and I always laughed because those commercials were so simple back in the day. It was like Dove soap, use it and it makes your skin smooth. You know, it's that simple. There's not like any seductive dancing in the background, none of this music. It's just very simple.
Right.
But now you have this advertisement that's, you know, very subtle ways of
selling
getting
a lifestyle.
people to sell.
Right.
Yeah. And it goes along with what you're saying is like we've been so, you know, used to that for so long that we're
even as kids, I mean, toy advertisements and stuff, they had to pass a law that basically said if you're going to advertise toys, you can only show so many seconds of advertisement and so many seconds of cartoon, because they would make these advertisements like little shows and little cartoons and then show the toy at the end or whatever. And they had to, you know, that's how much that like my generation has been marketed to and advertised to, and how much BS that we've had to sift through our whole entire lives.
Yeah.
So we can really, I think, genuinely tell pretty well, you know, if we have our head on straight about whether or not somebody's BSing us or not. Because, and especially like the more YouTube that I've watched and all that, you see people just spouting off opinions. Yep. You know.
Well, and not only that, they're trying to force those opinions as some sort of fact when really it's only an opinion.
Right. Yeah.
It may be based in a factual story, but there's no factual content in the opinion.
Well, and if somebody says, you know, you should do this, or this is the only way to do this, or the only way to carry, or this is the only gun you need, or whatever, it's like, yeah, then you can probably discount that opinion.
By the way, which is the only way to carry now?
Appendix carry.
All right.
That's the best way to carry. That's how you should carry no matter what.
Yeah.
Except now
Ricky's changed.
Well, I got this I'm waiting for these Ulti clips to come in.
They're in.
Are they in?
They're
I'm
here.
going to get one because I got this stiffer belt.
Yeah.
It's a crossbreed belt.
Okay. More buzz marketing.
Well, yeah, I've just buzz marketed Ulti clip and crossbreed belts.
But we sell Ulti clips here in the store.
Yeah. And
we just got them in.
So, but I just got that stiffer belt. And my belt doesn't sag anymore.
Okay.
So, Ricky, will you sell those Ulti clips like you just sold me on Dove soap?
I will. Ulti clips snap really tight, so you should buy one.
We need to work on your...
There's a reason he's the Academy director. But anyway, so...
This has turned in just to a giant advertisement.
Basically. Thank you, Dove soap. Thank you, Rockstar Energy, Ulti clips, and crossbreed belts. For your
lack
patronage.
For your lack of advertising funds. We need more money in the podcast.
Yeah, right. But no, so, you know, we've been marketed to, we've been advertised to. But also the other thing that I thought of is our generation has been raised in the era of mass shootings and school shootings. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was 1999. I was 11 years old when Columbine happened. And I remember where I was. You know, I remember watching that on the news in my bedroom before going to school that morning. That that was happening, and I think that our generation has a lot more information about how the world can be, and that these things do happen. And then so some people just decide that they're going to take their personal safety as their own responsibility, and that's what they decide to do. And it's like I said, it's only about 28-30% of millennials own guns, so it's not a ton. Mm-hmm.
But it's growing.
But it is growing. And another interesting statistic from that documentary was that a number of concealed handgun permits have gone up from around the country from 4.6 million in 2007 to 17.5 million in 2018.
That's a big increase.
So my statistics are old. I found 16.3 million.
Okay,
but this might have been last year's report.
It almost quadrupled.
Yeah, so I have a list of active permits by state.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but
what's this?
Like I say, this is March 14th, 17. So it's a little old.
Yeah, this one was from the this source was the Crime Prevention Research Center. And this is obviously nationwide. It's just an aggregate of concealed handgun permits issued in the U.S. Yeah, 17.5 million, which is about 4 or 5% of the entire
which is awesome. That's
nation.
a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
I think
It's good. It's good room for improvement, but it's also showing good signs of growth.
Right.
And if
Good trends.
this graph is still somewhat relevant from a year ago, it's kind of intriguing how many, like, what states have the highest concentration of concealed carry holders to me.
What is it?
You should share with us.
So what do you think the highest? Here's a little, let's play a game here.
The highest.
The highest per capita, well, what state has the most concealed carriers?
California.
Ricky?
I would think Idaho or one of these. Yeah, it wouldn't be. Well, it probably wouldn't be any of the constitutional carry states.
Nope, not the constitutional carry states.
No.
By a huge margin, Florida.
Hawaii. No,
Florida.
okay. Yeah.
Florida
has the most
has the
concealed carry
most
permits per
concealed carry
capita.
permits. Yeah, by let's see, they're at
That kind of makes sense.
let's see,
Does it?
1.
Well,
in 2017, 1.7 million.
Like we were
1.7
telling,
million.
like we were saying last week, all the crime happens in Florida.
Now,
Every bad thing, right?
Every bad thing, at least reported on in the news, comes from Florida. So
so where do you think Idaho sits in this ginormous list of?
probably about halfway down.
Yeah, about halfway down, a little lower than half. Hawaii has 0 according to
Yeah.
this.
I don't think you can get a concealed carry permit
they're
in
super
Hawaii.
Stupid Hawaii.
Well, you're living in paradise. What do you need a gun for?
Yeah, as of
That's true.
June 2017, Idaho is at 129,000.
Out of 2 million, so that's about 5%,
Yeah.
5-6%, something like that.
So it's following.
Yeah,
the
following
same.
the trend.
So yeah, I thought
Now-
this was kind of interesting.
And that is. So your people that are carrying concealed or have a concealed carry permit are really they're a whole separate group, not a whole separate group, but it's a smaller group within the
firearms
larger
owners community.
Yeah, the larger community.
Yeah,
So
because I talk to a lot of people that are not comfortable with carrying guns, and especially if I carry appendix or whatever, and they're like, what? Aren't you worried about shooting
yourself?
something? No.
Well, you already had kids, so it's you don't have anything to worry about.
I'm not too worried about that at all. You carry a Glock and one in the chamber. Aren't you worried about that going off? Nope.
That's some of the misinformation, though, I think that comes around, because I bet you if you search YouTube right now, you could find a video. For every video that you say carrying in the chamber is fine, you'll find a video that say I never carry in the chamber.
Sure.
I see that all the time. People don't carry in chamber, and I mean that's all.
They can do it. It's not my gunfight.
Yeah,
they can
that's
do what
all
they want,
their
but-
preference. I would share though with what I've heard a lot of other elite trainers saying is if you're not carrying one in the chamber, then you're not ready to carry.
You're not carrying it.
Yeah, and I agree with that statement. You might as well not even be carrying a gun
But
because you don't trust yourself.
you're talking about this, the smaller group of concealed carriers within the firearms community. The young people, the millennials and Gen Z and all that, half of the firearm owners do concealed carry. I mean, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
think? And,
So within that bubble, within that small section,
49%. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought, and this is something that I found was interesting too, that 75% of those concealed carriers are white males.
Profiling.
No, it's not profiling. I just thought
only 17%
17%
of the people carrying concealed.
No, 75%
Oh,
of concealed
75.
carriers.
I thought you
Or
said
it's either 75% of concealed carriers, young concealed carriers, or 75% of firearms owners. So the lion's share is still white men, but I think, as you guys have seen, and we've all seen in the shop, that, minorities, women, all different kinds of folks, I think, are starting to carry concealed as well.
The lady shooters are really picking up them numbers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
really are.
I see that in our coming in to the store all day. It's just like, I had something happen. I want to carry a gun. I want to get trained to do it.
And you guys saw that video, and I don't think it was in the U.S., where they were standing at like the school, the bus stop, and the dad or estranged father or whatever tries to kidnap the little girl.
Yeah.
And the off-duty cop lady blasts him. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
This was several months ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. She stopped a kidnapping. The guy learned a hard lesson that day.
Yeah, there's a video too. I think it was a woman in Brazil, an off-duty cop or whatever, and there was a guy who walked with a gun, and she let it loose on him. Yeah, and I mean, it was like a tight environment.
She handled herself really well
because there were about a dozen people around, and she just drew and took care of it. And even anecdotally, that in the Newsy special report, they interviewed this young woman, I believe from New York, because she was not open carrying, but like she was like had it inside the waistband, but had like her shirt like tucked in, And she goes, "Yeah, this is a M&P 9 compact or whatever," and she goes, "New York compliant." I thought that was kind of funny, but she was talking about how she was walking down the street one day and there was this guy following her, and she was sketched out. And so she just kind of lifted her shirt a little bit, not brandished or whatever, but kind of presented a little bit the firearm, or let him know that she was carrying, and he backed right off. So, and I guess that could count as a defensive gun use.
I would say yes.
Because the presentation of a firearm stopped a potential threat. It's just really interesting to hear people my age, because I don't think that there are that many. At least I didn't think so.
I think there's a lot of people your age.
Thank you. A lot of people my age who are either interested in firearms or interested in carrying and defending themselves. But I think maybe that number is growing, and what my big question is how do you get young people into shooting? How do you get more people into shooting?
Yeah, finding the right, I think, instructors, or at least the right classes with the right instructors is great. I mean, parents put kids in gymnastics and karate and whatever sport or whatever, right?
Right.
And what makes those team sports amazing, or that kid's experience amazing, is usually the coaching staff and obviously the feeling of accomplishment or succeeding in something, which we're working on here at the store about doing the air gun thing, which I think is going to be, and we already see the excitement from parents and kids about doing that now.
Uh-huh.
It gives them something different to excel at, and honestly it gives them a pretty good future if they're good at it and they really put their effort into it. They can go to college and beyond. So I think getting them excited about something that they can be good at, and it's not a hard sport. I don't think shooting's difficult, but
it's simple, but it's a hard thing to master.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it depends on the level, right? I mean, I couldn't go up against Doug Koenig or any of those guys by any means, but it just gives them something to do and a feeling of accomplishment when they hit bullseyes. And
that's the thing, is you just hit on it, is you hit the bullseye.
Boom.
You have so far to go that there's really never an end, and that's why I call firearms proficiency a practice. It's something that you're practicing always. You never reach the climax.
Well,
does that make sense?
And
sorry,
yes,
that sounds a little weird, Ricky.
That's all right. There's Ricky's.
You can edit that out.
We'll just
but no, you never reach the
pinnacle.
The pinnacle.
Yeah, you're never
better.
Well, you're never all knowing. You never are going to be sitting on that throne where like I am perfect at firearms.
And you talk to the guys on top level USPSA shooter, competitive shooters, and they'll tell you that, hey, there's new shooters coming up, and I can't shoot as good as they do. And they'll get experience, and somebody else is going to be right behind them on their coattails, ready to push them off their throne. And so it's just the way it is. There's always somebody better.
Always.
And no matter what field you're in, there's always somebody better.
And always somebody worse.
Yes.
But I was going to ask Ricky about that air rifle thing, because we just started that. It's only about a month old or a couple weeks old.
No, we haven't even started it.
Oh, it hasn't started yet?
No, we're doing our launch party on, our launch information night this Saturday at 6 o'clock.
8th.
September 8th. So by the time the podcast is out, it'll be already done. But
yeah.
So by the time you're listening to this, you missed it.
But
what's the response been so far?
Good.
I think it's been pretty positive.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know numbers yet as far as how many kids. And kids are hard. That's one thing I wanted to talk about. Like, getting kids into the youth or the shooting sports is hard because there's quite a few hurdles you have to get over. The kids have to be excited about it, and a lot of times they just aren't.
Yeah.
And then the parents, you have that hurdle too, because the parents, for good reason, have to feel the instructors out, the instruction. They have to know the curriculum, that it's worthwhile, because this is their baby. This is their child that they're trusting in somebody else's hands to teach them about firearms. That's a big deal. So you have to get past the kid wanting it, and you have to get past the parent going through the vetting process of the curriculum and the organization.
Sure.
And then at that point, they'll allow their kid to participate. So youth programs are difficult.
I think
they're difficult to market and fill,
but don't like the Boy Scouts have like a firearms training or any kind of summer camp sometimes, like
sort of,
because even
at scout camp they'll do some stuff,
but not a lot.
Well, they do rimfire and they do shotgun.
Well, that's Boy Scouts.
Well, yeah. So yeah, Cub Scouts will do BB guns. I think. I don't think
they do air guns or spring. Yeah, they do.
But at least that's the good way. And I like the idea of an air rifle course or air rifle competition, because it's a good way to start kids learning about firearms, learning about safety.
Well, and I would even tell adults to start doing air gunning, because it helps you with your marksmanship. Even
sure.
like how we've talked about, like somebody who's just starting out firearms and they're afraid of the recoil or whatever, let's start them out with a rimfire. Even better, let's start them out with an air gun, because that's zero recoil. Even a rimfire has a little bit, but just the weight of the gun on an air gun is gonna knock down all that recoil. You're working on all your marksmanship skills, and a lot of the shooting is one-handed, so you have to do it even better than two-handed.
And any kind of shooting's fun.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a BB gun or an air gun or rimfire or full auto.
When my son was probably 3, I bought him a BB gun. Obviously, he was too young, so I had to shoot it for him, and I broke it before he even was old enough to shoot it. Because I was shooting it too much.
But so you've got a kid or two, and I mean, are they interested in firearms at all? Do they care? I mean, what are personally?
My son, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, my daughters. The oldest one, if it's not shopping, it's not really fun. Maybe the younger two. I don't know yet.
I was reading a bio, I guess, about or from this other gun range yesterday in Colorado Springs, and it was about this lady who had grown up. Her parents had owned a gun store all her life, and she said, I never took interest in it, never really even shot a gun. She was more interested in Barbies and that sort of stuff. She moved away for marketing over in New York or something like that, and lived in New York for 8 to 10 years. And then came back to do an episode because somebody was filming her mom, who co-owned with her dad the gun store, and they were filming her mom as an instructor, as a female instructor in the firearms, and she lost her mom. So while her mom was teaching her, that was the first time that she had ever shot a 9mm. This is a girl that grew up in a gun store. That's the first time she ever shot a 9mm pistol. And she said the first time she hit the bullseye with her mom instructing her. And from that, she just gained a love for it. And to me, that was kind of cool to hear that story, is because you have somebody that had been around it like your daughters, but it takes that moment, just one moment where it's like an aha. And that's how I was raised around firearms.
Yeah.
It was not a big deal to me, but I was doing other things with my friends. I was out and about and doing other things. And I kind of kick myself now. I'm like, dude, I should have gotten into guns way sooner, because I had the ability. When I was 21, I should have been buying my first pistol. When I was 18, I should have bought my first rifle. It's like these are the hallmarks I should have done, but I didn't, because I was more interested in other things. And but it was that moment. There was a moment, and I think there's always comes that moment in everybody's lives that get into shooting sports.
Well, and I think you can see like, oh, this is that awesome. Lady's experience is the same. Everybody will reach that moment at some point, whether it's as a kid. Hopefully, we can spark them young so they can really get involved and make the shooting sports last, or they could be 85 years old and finally, this is a lot of fun.
Well, I've seen that in the range, RSOing in beginner pistol classes. You have these folks who are middle-aged or older who haven't shot a gun in decades or they never have, and you see the quick improvement that they make with some simple instruction, and they really do enjoy it.
Yeah, and we see it in the store quite often, honestly, and it's funny because the older women, if they get involved, I mean, it's new and exciting to them, and they're just sponges, like they're soaking it. But if it's a guy and he's like never touched a handgun, he's almost like I've never shot a handgun before.
Like under the
cool.
table.
Welcome. He's like, well, I don't know much about guns. Great, come on in.
Let's teach you. Yeah.
So they're really like embarrassed, almost
reserved
about. I don't care if it's the first time you've handled a gun. Let's get you shooting, man.
It's like guys need to know two things in the world: how to fix cars and how to shoot guns.
I'm glad there's only two things you brought up.
There's only two things.
Did you think he was going to say something other than fixed cars?
Yeah,
I don't know. Some of the other things we've talked about, I just don't know.
Were you nervous? Whenever you're like, what's going to come out of Ricky's mouth? That's going to be the edit button.
Well, you already talked about climax, and that was...
Yeah, he's feisty today, so who knows? Ricky's a wild card today. I think.
Dang that English language.
I'm really hoping that stereotype of guns being like a hoorah masculine thing is kind of becoming busted. It's starting to be eroded.
Well, it's always going to be there. Always going to be there because you're going to have couch commandos coming in and I got a shockwave. I'm awesome. You're just a dude with a shotgun.
Yeah. Having a gun doesn't make you a proficient shooter. Doesn't even make you a safe shooter, to be honest.
Usually quite the opposite.
Right. But I guess the other thing that I found interesting was in the documentary, special report, whatever I keep calling it a documentary. I'm just going to roll with it. But they talked to one of the YouTube kind of guys. I can't remember what his name was, but it's the Warrior Poet Society. I don't know if you guys have heard of that channel. John Lovell, yeah.
He's awesome.
He's a former U.S. Army Ranger.
He does not look like it.
He looks like a normal dude. And I didn't even know he was a Ranger until
he's one of the coolest,
news.
I've met him. He's one of the coolest people ever. In fact, I was actually looking up his classes yesterday to go take some classes.
Where's he at? Where's he based out of? Anybody know?
Down south.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you something after the podcast is over.
Secrets. But he brought up the fact.
# don't say anything.
He brought up the fact that he's gotten popular on YouTube almost by accident. He was posting videos and stuff on Instagram, and suddenly he had 15,000 followers, and he didn't have anybody doing his marketing or anything like that, and so he had to hire somebody, and now pretty much that's his full-time job, to the point where he has classes. He even has simulators where he can simulate different situations and all that kind of stuff.
I'm showing everybody a picture. Look, see, it says, "Yo, Steve, keep up being a baller, John Lovell."
Oh, look at that!
When did you get that? A SHOT Show?
Yeah, he's one of the coolest.
Mary has one too.
I gave that to her and she gave it back.
That's pretty cool.
So he is one of the coolest guys I've ever met.
That's it.
But he focuses a lot on concealed carry, on being prepared, on being a better shooter, and I think it really kind of tied it all together. That he went into the philosophy of concealed carry and of self-protection and all that, and he goes, it really forces you to ask yourself the hard questions about life, about what are you willing to die for? What are you willing to go to jail for? It basically asks you, boldface, what are your priorities? And I think that resonates with a lot of people, in my generation, because sometimes people don't have a direction. People don't have, those hard philosophical questions to ask themselves or don't know. And firearms at least helps them figure that out.
And the reason why I like John's videos is because he presents that in a way that's not so hard to think about. It's simple. It's straightforward. Like, he doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Right.
But he goes through... Not just scenarios, but just the way he presents things. I really like John. I don't know if you've ever watched his videos, Ricky. He's got some really cool stuff. That's why I want to take some of his classes.
And he focuses on civilians too. It's not necessarily for...
Yes.
Okay.
It's not necessarily for law enforcement or military only, which they encounter far different situations than civilians.
Yeah, all his classes are sold out.
Well, there's a reason.
Yeah.
But he's saying that a lot of in the news report, he said a lot of people are just looking for self-defense tips and self-defense knowledge.
But like I say, how he presents that knowledge is reality based.
Right.
it makes you think, because there's a consequence to everything, or certain tactics, air quotes tactics, about how to, like I watched one of his videos yesterday about kind of clearing rooms, and honestly you shouldn't do that as a concealed carry. Let the cops do that.
Right.
But he goes through that platform and things you got to think about a little bit, and there's so much more to it. He has a class just about room clearing.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool to take his classes.
Yeah, as a homeowner.
Right.
So, like, if you hear a bump in the night, how to go through your house, and
what
even
to
though
do.
you know your house, there's tactics.
Which, I mean, has its place. Like, say you have a child on the other side of the house, it does have a place. If your kid is right there in the room next to you, yeah, let the cops do it, because you can get out the window, and let the cops, find the cougar or whatever broke into your house, or
What's her name? Sorry.
Everything I say today.
Ricky can't win today.
Can't win for losing, buddy.
Okay, the bear, the big grizzly.
Oh, that's better.
That doesn't have any negative connotation, right?
It might, but we'll just keep going.
But anyway, no, there could be a place for clearing rooms.
Yeah.
Like if I'm having to find like what happened to my kid, but that sounded like a big bump, somebody breaking in the door, crashing a window, I need to figure it out, but my kid is all the way across the house.
Well, and I think that's part of it, going back to people being on YouTube and looking for self-defense stuff. I think people growing up now, they're realizing that the world, maybe it's not becoming a more dangerous place, but it seems like it. Or maybe, for me, for example, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, which is kind of an idyllic kind of lifestyle, there's nothing to worry about. And then you realize that, like these things do happen. And, I do want to take my own responsibility with my own safety. And, getting your first apartment, getting your first house, you kind of realize those situations. It's like they can happen. And there's nothing wrong with having the knowledge. That's kind of my opinion of it. And that being on YouTube and having such easy access to that information, as long as you know where to look the right way, it arms you with that information. You realize that, okay, owning a firearm isn't just for gun nuts or for, conspiracy theorists or anything like that. It can be for anybody. And learning how to use that gun either for sports, for defense, or both, or whatever, I think it helped normalizes it and realize and lets a lot of people realize it's just another tool. It's another sport. Yeah. You just have to be responsible with it.
Well, it's just like we talked about tourniquets and all that stuff. Last podcast, whenever it was, a couple podcasts ago. All those things are tools in my toolbox that either can take or save a life, right? So I want to be able to have as many things to my disposal to keep my survival and my family's survival to keep going. That's the point. That's why I carry a gun. That's why I carry an IFAC. To prolong my and my family's survival. Yeah,
and you don't know what situations you're going to end up in, and it's better to have it and not need it.
Yeah.
I think
it sounds so carnal, right? It sounds like we live in the Stone Ages, but it's true. We don't know what evil lurks around any corner. Mm-hmm. We just need to be prepared for it.
Well, and I had, this kind of hit home this morning, actually, believe it or not. I was awoken at 4:30 in the morning to my phone going off and my
cougar.
It wasn't a cougar.
Oh,
my girlfriend was sleeping next to me. The Amber Alert.
Woke me up too.
Because I was going to ask you guys if you got woke. Well, Ricky probably not.
I didn't.
Because there's no. The emergency broadcast system is done through cell phones now. So if there's a tornado warning or an Amber Alert or whatever, it pings your phone.
Amber Alerts don't work on rotary phones. So
no, they
Ricky
sure don't.
wasn't woke up.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, the operator would have had to call him and tell him, hey, by the way. But her phone was on loud, my phone was on vibrate, and I just hear bzzz, bzzz, and then I hear those emergency tones, and those, I don't know what happened to me as a child, but those bug the hell out of me. They freak me out. But it made me realize, like, at 4:30 in the morning, if something goes bump in the night or there's some sort of emergency going on, like, what do you do? How do you react? You know what I mean? And thankfully, I'm one of those people where it's either I'm up or I'm not. I'm not like groggy. So I like shot up out of bed. First thing I did, grab my phone within seconds. So it made me a little bit more confident. And if something happened, because my gun is right next to the phone at night. But just it freaks you out. It makes you wonder, okay, these situations do happen. That could have been somebody, that could have been breaking glass, or that could have been sirens outside the house or something, anything. You know what I mean? I hate to say, but thankfully it was only an Amber Alert. I mean, I hope that...
Hey, the kid was found safe.
Okay, so that's good.
I always feel bad with those Amber Alerts. I look at them and I'm like, I wish I could help. But, yeah.
You never know.
I wish I could just know where that car is or whatever.
It just keeps your eyes open, or it tells you to keep your eyes open and all that kind of stuff. But it just kind of hit home. Like, as you get older, you realize you're exposed to more situations. You realize that things can happen like that, and within a matter of seconds. And it's like, oh my God, what do I do? And I think, the combination of growing up and realizing that things can happen, even though, I think violent crime may be going down. There was a statistic that the documentary brought up talking about the actual violent crime rate versus the perceived violent crime rate. Believe it or not, the actual violent crime rate has gone down significantly since 1993, and this is a Gallup poll that they sourced. But ever since 2001, 2002, it looks like the perceived violent crime rate has actually gone up, and we've kind of taled about that probably because of the media,
24-hour news cycle,
and all that stuff.
Well, and if it bleeds, it leads.
Yep, exactly.
So you're going to be focusing on all the death and the carnage and Florida shootings
because it's an emotional thing.
Mm-hmm. And you think that, oh my God, that happened there, that can happen to me, or that like I've talked about before, mean world syndrome is that the more you see bad things happening on the news, the worse you think the world is going to be, and the statistics play that out. But I think it's been interesting as a result of that, more and more people are getting their concealed carry permits.
Fabulous.
So I think the trend is actually moving towards more firearm ownership, more knowledge about it, and that's the big thing that we've talked about before is education. The more education you can get, the better. So
it makes me wonder. I was thinking about what's making those numbers climb up politically. Is it because we have a Republican president now, or is it? But maybe it's something that started a president ago or two presidents ago that kind of got the momentum going. Where
this
now
could
we're
be a
finally
longer term
seeing,
thing.
yeah, like what?
Well,
if there's something political making it happen.
When did that take its? So from 2017 or 2007 to this year, it's what?
Yeah,
way more than doubled.
It looks like from 2007 to 2011 there was a spike from about 4.6 million to just under 10. So
that would make sense.
You could think
with the presidency,
the inauguration, Obama, inauguration happening in the beginning of 2007. I've heard unofficial quotes of people saying, President Obama was the best gun salesman there was.
Absolutely.
But it's steadily climbed since then. But I think ever since Columbine, really, if you really want to go back, that I think there's been more and more mass shootings or at least more high profile mass shootings, and plastered all over the place and all that. And each one is terrible, but it gets people thinking, this can happen there, it can happen to me. Now, this is the interesting part and I've been saving this for last because I wanted you guys to just get the good out before we get all upset.
Okay, get me upset, please. Ricky's already there. So.
The director for
can't push me too far.
The director of public affairs for Ipsos, who teamed up with Newsy for this poll of a couple thousand people, she was quoted in saying, "Millennial gun owners have somewhat complex views when it comes to guns and gun control laws. They don't want to take away guns, but they know owning one is a responsibility, which is where their views on stricter gun laws come into play. Because while there are more young gun owners who are concealed carrying, almost half of young gun owners think that the NRA is obstructing more gun control."
Yeah, because they're still buying into some garbage that's being pushed.
You think so?
Social media.
Yeah. I think it's funny that the NRA is obstructing. The NRA is not a governing body. They're not legislators. They're not attorneys. Well, they have attorneys, I'm sure, but sure, they're a lobbying group, but they're not the largest lobbying group.
Well, and what is it? What is it called now? Every town against gun violence, or moms against
every
gun
town
violence,
for gun
or
safety.
whatever.
Yeah, every town and moms.
That's another lobbying group.
Which honestly probably have more deeper pockets.
Well, you have Bloomberg behind it, so it's
and Soros.
Is that who it is?
That my conspiracy talk. Put on your tinfoil hats. But there is money pushing those guys back. Ooh, as I talk really loud in my mic.
Yeah, careful there.
See, you're getting me excited.
I know. See, that's why I saved this for the end. So, And then it seems like young gun owners support more gun control more than most people. It said 63% of young gun owners support more gun control versus 53% of the quote-unquote total population who supports more gun control.
Yeah, and I think they probably just, and I think we talked about this off air, maybe it's they don't understand what laws are already there.
I think, and that goes back to education. I think, when you say gun control, what gun control?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that, do you support an assault weapons ban? Do you support magazine capacity restrictions? Do you support stronger background checks?
Well, and
what exactly is that? That's my big question.
And that wouldn't surprise you if they, assault weapons ban. Okay, well then what's an assault weapon? Oh, those scary looking black guns. Okay, well, this gun here, this AR-15, does not operate anything like what no military in history has ever issued an AR-15. Zero. Because it's an ineffective war tool. It may look like something that our guys carry overseas, sure, but it does not operate the same. And so that's you get the lack of education and understanding of what tools do what things. Or they don't understand that, everybody does do a background check. You just can't buy a gun online. There's no such thing as a gun show loophole. So they probably get sucked into that on-demand media that tells them these things are happening because they're getting information no matter what.
Right.
Well, and like we were talking about, I think it was last week. What were we even talking about? But about how the background check failed. Or somebody didn't run a background check.
Oh, with the Florida, the shooting at the EA Games tournament in Florida.
Yeah,
no, he passed the background check.
It was a total, so that's the thing. It was a total breakdown of the laws that are already there, which, like Steve brought up, the NRA was the
they're the ones that were the proponents group for NICS.
Yeah, they wanted it. So it's like they're saying that they're obstructing it is just a little ludicrous. And so, that's where education comes in. And even in my head right now, I'm like, what? How would we fill a class on these things?
So that's why
that's what always goes through my head.
That's why you're the academy director.
Yeah.
But I think for me, seeing anybody can post anything on social media, and so they can find whatever article they want to support, their opinion one way or the other. I will say that I think the way that the NRA has let itself be portrayed in the mainstream media has been a little dodgy because they have these commercials that talk about, or at least insinuating that, like, violently defending your freedoms and things like that. And, depending on how you feel about it, that's not entirely, or could be justified, but it scares people. It's
about us like having to protect ourselves from the government, you mean?
They present it in a way that, it seems, and maybe it's warranted, but very dramatic, very do or die.
And you have to take that with what it is, because the NRA thrives. They live off of money. They have to have money.
Sure.
And so, I like the NRA. I like what they're doing. I'm not saying anything bad about the NRA necessarily, but when you are a member of the NRA, they blow up your phone, they blow up your email, more money. This is the worst time in history for gun rights.
That's what it is. They use
that
fear.
Sort of stuff.
They
it's
prey
always
on
fear.
people's fear, and
that's
fear.
Yeah, they definitely need.
I think they need, and I think they're turning a corner with NRA Carry Guard. I think that's more of a lifestyle thing.
They're like 10 years behind the curve.
Well, yeah, because they're not, you look at guys like John Lovell and teaching that kind of stuff now. And I'm sure does he get into 2A stuff at all or not really?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, kind of goes part and parcel with concealed carry
but he's
all
not,
that.
He's not like overboard. I mean, you get some of those people that are, and you can be way overboard on gun rights. You can, there's extremes on both sides of the fence.
100%.
What's that Aesop's fable? There's a man walking, and the wind and the sun are having a competition to see who can get the man to take his coat off faster. And so the wind is blowing hard, or who can get the guy's coat off faster. The wind is blowing and blowing and blowing, trying to rip this guy's coat off of him, basically. And the sun, so that's showing like fear and hatred and anger, like you're feeding it out. And the guy, all he does is he bundles up tighter. He wraps that coat around him more. The sun comes out, symbolizing peace and love and happiness, and and the guy takes his coat off because it's warm. And that's how I think of like the NRA, where they do struggle with that fear tactic, because it gets annoying. People want to. I want to turn it off. Stop calling me. Stop saying that hell is being unleashed every single day. It's like, just say, hey, such and such has happened. We've been in such and such a lawsuits, and we need more money. Would you please donate today?
Yeah, I
think that would be actually a little bit more positive than the constant do or die sort of.
And they contract to these calling companies, right? And so those people may not even have the same point of view. They're just working for a paycheck, but they have a script that was written maybe not by the NRA,
or maybe 10 years ago by the NRA.
Yeah.
And I think I'm hoping with this carry guard stuff that they're turning a corner a little bit, because
I think it's a good move for them.
I think one of the big things, and is that you have to respect people's personal choice of whether or not, or let me back up. You have to respect people's personal choice of how they want to protect themselves and how much they want to prioritize their personal safety. If they want to carry a gun every day, that's cool. Great. Let's show you how to do it safely. Let's educate you. Let's help you with philosophy, all that kind of stuff. Well, let's make you better at it. But if you don't want to carry a gun, you don't feel comfortable, that's okay too. Or if you don't want to be around firearms, you don't want to own one in your home, that's fine too. But both sides have to respect one another. And
you'd think that this would have come up a long time ago with the NRA, because they're all about education, right? Between kids and adults, get a lot of training. But what better representative of gun rights than not only somebody that has a certificate, but represents the gun community intelligently and respectfully and honestly. So like if somebody has to use their gun, like this is what they're finally picking up with Carry Guard, they're teaching people to be educated about their rights, how to use the gun properly, understanding manipulation and firearms manipulation and that kind of thing, where respectively and I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but they're getting a good reputation of solid people that will represent the gun community, whether it be in court or on TV or wherever, on Facebook.
Kind of positive role models, and to show that there are a lot of safe, responsible...
Yeah, and it's not a bunch of buffoons.
Well, they used to be, the NRA, and this is the way a lot of people look at them, they were like the Pez dispenser of certificates, right? Hey, RSO, pistol, yeah, here you go. Here.
Which is still the same... But on their Carry Guard, it's not.
Yeah,
Carry Guard's extremely exclusive.
Yeah, now there's expectations that you have to meet, which should have been done a long time ago. I understand that they wanted to get education out there along everybody, so they're trying to teach a lot of people to get them involved. But what that did is that dumbed down their reputation and the prestige of having some kind of certificate, because it just watered it down.
It's not special anymore at that point.
And so now they have to come back up. They have to now make Carry Guard, which I think is awesome. But the private markets have already done this.
Yeah, the people on YouTube. Or like even here, we've got, all kinds of classes.
Yeah.
For all kinds of different people. And I think that's really the way to help keep the gun community going, for the next generation, is really education, information, and respect. If somebody isn't into it, like, kids, okay, you're not going to force them into it. And you sure as hell not going to try to fear them into it.
No, that'll do the exact opposite.
Yeah. Like you said, if you're blowing the wind, that's just going to make somebody clutch their jacket tighter. I actually really like that. Ricky with wisdom.
Yeah. They have people have happy places to go now, right? I mean...
Sorry, that made me think of Happy Gilmore's Happy Place.
But for real, if you have a YouTube video that's all this hatred and anger, and you have, a more friendly video, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the more friendly place. Like, you're not going to have this guy screaming at you. So, yeah, the NRA, and some people are different, but the NRA does need to change a tactic. Turn that over.
They need to evolve.
Yeah.
Well, not so much change their tactics. They need to bring them up to where society standards are now.
Yeah. Well, because their foundation has been in firearm safety and education,
which is great.
But you think back in the day of like the Red Scare, which I don't believe has ever ended, but I mean, people anyway.
Wolverines.
But anyway, you think of the Red Scare, the NRA's fear campaign to get money would have worked really well back then. It was probably the right course of action. Like, these guys, we need our guns because the communists are coming.
Right.
You know, it's a legitimate tactic. It's a legitimate way of getting money. But the way we are now, where everyone's like, you know, peace, love, happiness, everyone's cool. Let's just like get along. You know, that's kind of how it is.
So we're in the hippie stage.
Yeah, we're in
gun ownership.
Hippie guns.
No, but for real, it's kind of like that. That's how I feel. So then, and I know if we got stuck on the NRA, we weren't even trying to talk
NRA,
about them.
huh?
But yeah, it is legitimate. Like with the younger group, and this is where we would tie it back in. The younger group, that's just not the way to do it.
No.
Right. Well, and so I was. I'm probably going to end up falling down the Warrior Poet Society rabbit hole later today, but
you'll enjoy it.
Right on his page, you know, there's a why I started Warrior Poet Society, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, but he's, you know, John Lovell said, I started the, you know, Warrior Poet Society because I looked at the gun industry and found no place for myself. And I thought that was odd because all I do is teach people gunfighting. How do I not fit into the gun industry? You know, I typically encounter superficial male egotism, warmongering, bravado, blah, 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 blah. You know, and he's basically saying, like, what the hell? Like, why is this still happening? It doesn't have to be this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we need to take the gun industry and where we need to take, you know, getting people involved in firearms.
And the other thing is, too, as you're reading that, I was thinking about it, he resonates with a group of firearms enthusiasts, right?
Right.
Some of those big macho guys, Costa, those guys, they're going to resonate with a group of firearms enthusiasts. So we got to have a spectrum of people that, you know, you do kind of need those macho assholes.
Wow.
You need them, right?
Yeah.
Even though some of them are completely overboard, their principles are still pretty sound as far as firearms training principles.
Yeah. You can learn something from them.
And they still have had experiences that could be beneficial for you to learn from.
I mean, I Pat McNamara, man, that guy is my man crush.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that I met at SHOT Show, the coolest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like, you watch his videos, you think the guy would be a total jerk. Because the dude's got to be pushing 60, and the guy's an animal. Mm-hmm. Big dude. We were walking through the Venetian. He was just sitting down. He never goes into the event center for SHOT Show. He will not go in. He doesn't like it.
Okay.
And I think it's probably more to do with all the people. He doesn't want to talk to people. But he was just chilling there at one of the restaurants in the Venetian, and I turned. I'm like, hey. And he points at me, hey. And he talked to me like I was a normal human being. Mm-hmm. You watch his videos, you think that guy's probably an asshole. Mm-hmm. But his tactics are sound. The dude has a lot of legitimate life experience to prove his point. I don't think I could ever afford to take it. I don't even know if he teaches classes anymore. Mm-hmm. But like I say, you got people that are on all parts of the spectrum. That are
just like any other industry or hobby or anything like that. You're going to have people of all different kinds.
And I tried to talk to Travis Haley. Mm-hmm. Almost impossible.
I don't know. He has his whole.
Well, he's got his posse,
entourage,
and not as bad. And I'm going to start name dropping like I'm somebody cool. Instructor Zero was
the worst.
A dick.
I'm going to have to get out my bleep machine for this one.
He was a jerk.
Yeah,
like he had 4 guys around him, and you couldn't even get close to him. He wouldn't even look at you.
Wow.
Like I just waved at him. He's.
Jeez.
You can't even say hi. What the heck, dude?
But you're going to find people like that in every industry.
In every industry.
Yeah. That's why I asked. I was like, is he humble when you guys were talking about level?
John is cool.
Because
we chatted for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And he was just cool. Like,
it's the same. It was the same way with John Correa when I was there, the guy that does the active self-protection videos.
And the first time I met him, I met him in Idaho Falls. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like him.
At Guns and Gear?
Yeah, he stopped by one day, and I didn't like him.
Oh.
But I didn't really spend a lot of time talking to him either.
He took a lot of time talking with me, and
which is great.
Yeah.
And it could have been all me, right? It could have been all perception, thinking this guy was just whatever, blowing smoke. So it could have been all me.
Well, and it might have been that day he was on a
catch him on an off
day.
Yeah,
he was pretty short, but he might have just stopped by between a flight or something trying to get somewhere. So Name dropping. Steve's a big deal. Don't let him sell himself short. But I think, and that's
brush your shoulder off.
Yeah,
that's a big point.
Yeah, I'll do it for you.
Well,
there are a lot of good people.
You got the chip off of it now.
Yeah, there we go. You feel better. There are a lot of good people in the firearms community, and there's a lot of great information to access instantly about self-defense, about firearms. You just have to know where to look.
Yeah. And I do, like I said, we talk about the spectrum of instructors. I like watching some of those high-speed, arrogant guys because I think they do offer something that
at least a different perspective, if nothing else. But I still think the best way to learn about firearms is to come in and get a class.
Yeah,
take a class because having you can't ask a YouTube question or YouTube video questions. A YouTube video is not going to actually manipulate your hands to get a better grip to actually shoot better.
You could put a comment in the bottom, but who knows how long it's going to be and whether BS you get it.
Or if some couch commando comes and says, "Well, I do it this way" or whatever, blah blah blah. But
I hold the controller like this way. Yeah.
And I think honestly, one of the best ways, Ricky touched on it about there's a point where you get hooked. There's that turning point when you shoot a gun for the first time, or maybe after the third or fourth time, that you realize how fun it can be, and how stress relieving or whatever, firearms can be. And I think just bringing people to the range who have never shot before and showing them the safe environment it is, or it can be, it should be, will really help bring younger people into the fold a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you probably see that all the time as you see people come to the range who haven't shot before, and they're usually smiling on their way out, aren't they?
Man, almost always.
We have that every single day, I'd say.
Yeah.
Multiple times a day of people who have never fired a firearm, and it brings us such joy to see that.
Yeah, I talked to a couple yesterday. There was two of them. Two brothers came in. They brought their wives in. One brother they'd moved from California, Simi Valley or something. They lived here like 5 years. Mm-hmm. The other brother's thinking about moving, but they got grandkids there and all this stuff. And the wife, they came in to look at guns, and the wife had never really shot much, and she was really concerned about, I don't know much. I was like, well, let's just come shoot. Let's go shoot. You got time? We can go shoot. And we looked at the Shield Easy. She's really concerned about carrying something now. She wants something for defense, so I showed her that Easy, which I think is a pretty good gun for newer, less experienced shooters. And turn the light bulb on. She's like, yeah, I think this would be fun. And I told her she had to move because it's not on the DOJ list of California. But
there's a small catch. Yeah, you just got to move to Idaho. So, but yeah, go check out this documentary. We're linking to it on the podcast description, and we'll link to all the stats and stuff that they have there as well. I think just education. Take somebody shooting that has never gone shooting before.
Yeah, and make sure they have a positive experience. Check their grip too. Like, don't let them get hurt. Don't give them a big caliber gun thinking how funny it would be. Don't be that
we've
guy
been over
or
that
gal.
before.
Yeah, make sure that they have a real positive experience. And the other thing I've noticed, like when I've helped people on the range, and I tell them, hey, it's if you feel uncomfortable or if you feel like you need a break, just put the gun down and just take a breather. It's not a big deal. Let them learn at their pace. Let them experience it to where they enjoy it.
Take their time, yeah. I think to put it in one sentence, the best way to ensure our gun rights stay where they are is to be a shining example of a gun owner.
Be responsible and be honest, yeah.
Yeah. Anything to add, Ricky, before we close?
Today's episode brought to you
by Dove Soap. Drink Rockstar.
That's right.
Dove Soap Rockstar.
Come check out the Utiliclips. What are they called?
Ulti-Clips.
That's what I said. Ulti-Clips. Come check out the Ulti-Clips at Independence Indoor Shooting. Yeah.
They are cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check them out after we're done.
It's a good and just to do a little plug for those.
See? Do you want me to type up something a live read for you real quick?
Yeah. No, but they are nice because they you can clip them on exercise pants or anything like that. They'll clip really.
So they'll fit on my stretchies.
On your stretchy pants, yes.
There we go. Basketball shorts, no big deal.
Yeah, so when you've eaten a big dinner and you take the belt off and you need to get into your stretchy pants or your pajamas, then the Ulti-Clip is your friend.
Love it.
Was that a good plug?
That was great.
Okay.
Ricky's born to be an ad lib Ad-lib guy.
That's right.
Well, thank you for listening as always. Check us out at iishooting.com. Like I said, all the links and stuff will be in the podcast description.
I'm not going to apologize for my crass language because that's who I am.
That's all right. I'll bleep it out so we don't offend anybody's ears.
I identify as a clean speaker.
Are you going to do the whole, like, what do they call it when you bleep out words that it shouldn't even be bleeped
Censoring?
out, but it's
unnecessary censoring.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
but it sounds like you're...
Just you. I'll just bleep out Ricky randomly throughout the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for listening. Send us an email, your opinion or anything, podcast at iishooting.com. Any feedback, episode ideas, anything like that. Find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Stitcher. We're growing. The number of channels you can reach us is growing every single day. So
Yeah, I think we have 6 listeners now.
yeah, that's 2 more than last time.
And 3 of them are in here listening.
So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. If you've got a comment, question, idea for the show, or any feedback, send us an email to podcast@iishooting.com or send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search Independence Indoor Shooting. Again, thanks for listening to Range Minded. We'll see you next time.